local stand-up comedian Shawn Polnik.
Hey, what's going on, Nick?
Yeah, doing good. How have you been?
Doing good.
If we can, jump right into it. This art form of comedy, it's kind of really interesting how you can get a reaction is creating that element of surprise. Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So like what we were talking about before was like, yeah, in a joke always needs to be surprising. If something is obvious, it's lame, right? Like nothing that doesn't shock isn't going to be surprising. Like I guess what we were talking about earlier was like classic one-liner structure when people were first doing jokes out in vaudeville or whatever. It's pretty much broken down to a science what a joke was precisely. And the one-liner particularly goes as like first it's called a one-liner, but there's two sentences. Like there's a premise, you establish that premise, and then there's a twist after, and then there's your second sentence is going to be a twist or the surprise. For example, one of the jokes that my favorite comedian does is my ex-girlfriend had a parakeet. Oh, man, that thing never shut up. But the bird was cool. That's from Anthony Jeselnik, and he's probably one of the top one-liner comedians right now. I might throw Dimitri Martin's name into the mix of like the best one-liner comedian in contention for the best one-liner comedian. But he does a lot more storytelling than Jeselnik, who's just straight one-liners like that. So that was done for like a really, really long time. And it wasn't until like the 60s when Lenny Bruce started that people started doing like the stories that were sort of more familiar with stand-up today. That's much more modern. The storytelling like that you see like Louis C.K. and Jerry Seinfeld and George Carlin do. That's all built from like Lenny Bruce, who really did revolutionize how stand-up was done.
We're talking about the like element of surprise, something unexpected, can make people laugh. Yeah, we've hung out at Goldie's together. That's where we met. For me, I'm just learning, but just doing a different voice, and people laugh. I'm not necessarily saying something funny. That seems to work because I guess it's along the same lines. It's something that somebody's not expecting you to do.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah, that's interesting. Like, there is that like philosophy about it that it always does need to be surprising. It's something that like I have mulled over a lot since reading that book, and I sort of agree with it, but like, yeah, sometimes if something is just really silly like that, then like, yeah, that can get a laugh too. There's still like in the same manner, like with that one-liner I just told, I established like a premise, and then like when I gave you the twist, it like put an incongruity in your brain.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what made it so surprising when you resolved that incongruity by learning, oh, he was actually talking about his girlfriend. In the same way, it's sort of incongruous for us to hear a strange voice from somebody, and that can be sort of shocking in a similar way. Maybe that would be the argument that somebody would make if they were like a very strong proponent of a joke is always a surprise and incongruity. That's probably what they would say. I'm not sure if I like fully agree with it.
Also, that aspect is the storytelling, because you really learn a lot about issues. Like, it really sheds light.
Yeah,
you learn a lot.
You learn a lot about people, and you learn a lot about yourself. And that's one of the like wonderful and terrible things about it, is that like when I'm in a conversation with anyone, like I want it to go well, and they want it to go well, right? So maybe you're a little bit more disingenuous with that person that you're speaking to, and they are too, because they sort of they have like a social investment in how it goes to some extent. Like, and I like just like we all need to sort of get along, because otherwise people are going to call us ass to each other. We're all going to be ass. But when you're on stage, that audience has like, they have no real reason to like who you are, so they're not going to give you those fake laughs, because they don't about you. So you really do, it really does like cut through the crap, and you learn a lot about what is actually funny. Like you really get, I think you get a lot more truth than you do when you interact with people in a normal day-to-day way.
Yeah, something I found out last week is, because I bombed last week, is energy. And I noticed that when another stand-up went up too, I didn't get so much into his routine. He told good jokes, but he didn't seem to have that energy.
By energy, do you mean like big energy, or like energy that matched the room?
Actually, like a hybrid of being comfortable on stage and kind of having that organic connection to the audience, to the stage, and just having that energy to go with it.
Yeah, well, what I think that like a lot of comedians, the mistake they make, and it's a mistake that I make all the time, is that I want to kill. I want to like floor the room, and you can't just floor the room. You can't go from 0 to 100 in no time. Like, if the audience isn't with you and you like go like big energy, then you're going to sort of look like a goofball and people are going to be like, what are you doing? Like a lot of times, like if they are like at 80%, like maximum energy, then you can bring them up to that 100 by going to 100 yourself. But if they're at like 40, if they're not really with you, and you go to 100, you just like sort of just get completely disconnected from them, and they're just not on board with what's happening anymore.
No, that's a good point you make, because you definitely have to pick up the vibe of the audience. I guess like compliment, if the audience is a certain place after the last comedian that went on, kind of have to go with that level of where they at.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Yeah, you sort of need to sort of start where the room is at and kind of be a little bit more chilled out. Yeah, it's kind of like a really hard lesson for an amateur comedian to learn. So if you're gonna do like if what you're gonna do is high energy, then if that's your plan before you go out, then you're sort of like, you're stuck, right? You're just gonna do it anyways. So maybe you don't really get the proper learning experience that you'd get if the room was at a place that would sort of match the energy of the material that you would be doing.
Are there certain limits that you put on yourself, that like there's certain issues you won't touch, certain things you won't make jokes about, some places you won't go?
No. I think that's kind of like what my problem is that I sort of I can be like incredibly dirty and just foul, and I won't say like the N-word or anything like that, but I definitely don't shirk from saying retarded if I think the joke would benefit from that. If like, I'm not going to be making fun of like the mentally challenged or anything, but if I think that's the right word, then I'll say that word. I haven't said or anything on stage, because I know that would just upset too many women, and especially considering that like that's just the nature of it. I definitely have some dirty jokes that make people uncomfortable, and people have been like, talk to me, and they're like, I don't like that you close with that joke, because I don't really want to follow it. But I don't know. If it's dirty, I'll do it, no problem.
Yeah, sometimes you want the audience on your side.
You always do.
Yeah, you always do. You don't want to alienate.
No one likes to laugh at somebody they hate. Why would you want to give anyone any credit? Somebody that you dislike. So you always want the audience to like you, and that's sort of the problem with doing like foul humor, is that like not like it can be funny, but it can also like make a lot of people uncomfortable. If they're uncomfortable, they're not going to be down with what you're saying, right? They're not going to like you. So there's like a balance. There's a balance there.
Shawn, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Nick.